everyone, my name is Natalie Pope, and I'm a doctoral candidate at the Rutgers School of Social Work. I'm presenting this talk along with Dr. Emily Greenfield at the Hub for Aging Collaboration at the Rutgers School of Social Work and on behalf of our broader team, including Dr. Laura Keyes at the University of North Texas and Dr. Elizabeth Russell at Trent University. Our presentation today explores a recent interpretive review our team conducted entitled How Does the Public Sector Engage in Age-Friendly Community AFC Initiatives? This manuscript is currently under review. We do not have any commercial relationships to disclose. Our talk today will begin with the motivation and context of the study, followed by an overview of the study design and method, and we'll conclude with results and discussion as well as implications and limitations. We'll move first to the motivation and context. The work of implementing and developing AFC initiatives is foundationally cross-sectoral, as illustrated in the definition of AFC initiatives as deliberate and distinct efforts across stakeholders from multiple sectors within a defined and typically local geographic area to make social and/or physical environments more conducive to older adults' health, well-being, and ability to age in place in community, to quote Greenfield and colleagues, 2015. Within this emphasis on cross-sectoral collaboration, research and practice insights specifically call out the importance of the public sector, as notably seen in the World Health Organization's engagement of subnational public sector decision makers in this movement. By public sector, we draw on Neal and colleagues 2014, who defined the public sector as including individuals who are inside the government, including specific officials, elected officials, public and staff agency, as distinct from individuals outside the government, such as interest groups, academics, researchers, or public stakeholders. There are several key themes in AFC discourse that motivate an exploration of how the public sector is directly involved in AFC implementation and development. Most broadly, AFC initiatives are framed as a way to facilitate the government's response to population aging. And further, literature often points to the inherent alignment of the public sector with age-friendly domains, such as housing, transportation, and social services. There is a growing evidence that AFC initiatives are more sustainable if integrated into and supported by local municipal structures. However, there is also discourse on what prevents the public sector from engaging in AFC implementation, which often includes hesitance or outright resistance to AFC ideas and work, as well as the challenges of engaging the public sector in fragmented and resource-strained contexts. Building on this motivating context, we identified a specific knowledge and practice gap in that the public sector is recognized as an essential partner in AFC work. However, there is an accompanying lack of clarity on the exact roles, capacities, and overall nature of said involvement. Our aim for this review was, therefore, to integrate and synthesize the diverse field of peer-reviewed literature to build theory on the variety of ways in which the public sector actors are involved in AFC work, focusing specifically on Canada and the United States. Within an overarching research question of what exactly does the public sector involvement in AFC initiatives entail, we aim to A, descriptively explore the range of public sector actions in support of AFC efforts, and B, develop a conceptual framework to characterize the variation in such manifestations of public sector involvement. We'll now move on to overview the methods of our review. We conducted an interpretive review for this synthesis project, a type of theory-building synthesis that is well-suited to exploring complex and under-theorized topics that span heterogeneous disciplines and types of research, such as the case with AFC implementation and development. This type of synthesis review fuses qualitative research approaches with standard synthesis review protocols, including searching the literature, establishing inclusion screening, and conducting data extraction and analysis. Our theoretically informed sampling frame was characterized by three overarching themes. First, we limited our sampling frame to just Canada and the US, given the parallels in how the AFC movement has developed between the two countries, as well as the research team's familiarity with these countries' sociopolitical and geographic characteristics. We further then sought to delineate the nature of an age-friendly community, in which we defined as A, a deliberate or organized AFC initiative or program, and or B, the coordinated community-wide actions spanning multiple domains of livability. This could include built environment, social engagements, and mental and physical well-being combined together. We did exclude articles that focused on only one domain, such as an article focused only on housing, for example, and community assessments that did not mention the public sector. Finally, we restricted our search to peer review articles published after 2010. For the sake of transparency, here is our exact search terms, which were based on a prior review conducted by Torku and colleagues in 2021. We iteratively modified the original search to develop more diversity in spellings, as well as more terms to encompass the full range of the place-based, age-friendly city community initiative concept. We conducted our initial search in February 2022, and then replicated this search again in December 2022. We identified 1,003 articles across 2 databases from Scopus and Social Science Premier Collection. Through the process of applying successive exclusion criteria, we ended the article screening process with a total of 66 included articles. The main analytic output of an interpretive review is called a synthesis argument, a meaning-making product that elucidates a deeper understanding of the research topic by integrating insights into a theoretical framework. Accordingly, our analytic process consisted of first describing the characteristics of the peer-reviewed articles in our purposely derived sample. We developed an extraction process to describe the nature of each article according to their overarching aim, geography, research design, systems level focus, and discipline. We then qualitatively analyzed the articles using thematic analysis to generate qualitative categories describing the range of public sector involvement as described in the peer review literature. We used in vivo 12 and met regularly to discuss coding and developing insights. This leads us to our results. We'll first provide a broad overview of the nature of the included articles. Just over half of the 66 articles focused on the United States, and an additional 38% of the articles focused on Canada. Most articles were published between 2018 and 2022. And again, most articles focus on the public sector involvement at the local level, specifically at the level of the municipality. The articles were published in journals representing a range of disciplines, with a large number coming from gerontology, geriatrics, as well as social policy and public management. And finally, the articles ranged in research design, with qualitative case studies and quantitative approaches being the most common. So moving on to the findings from our thematic analysis, our first theme sought to describe the overall positioning of the public sector in AFC programs. Broadly, whether the AFC initiative was operationally based within or outside the government. For example, in some instances, the public sector emerged as a leader of an auspice, a leader or an auspice organization for AFC work, whereas in others, the public sector was a member of a multi-sectoral governance group. Additionally, there was variation in the depth of the buy-in of the public sector, with some municipal departments investing in a paid staff position to oversee AFC work, while others struggled to secure funding for said staff positions. Another related theme was the variation in the presence of an AFC champion in the public sector and the extent to which the public sector was involved in leading AFC assessments. Our next 2 findings relate to the categories or types of public sector activities, the first of which is targeting age-friendly improvements largely from within the public sector. This theme encompasses public sector AFC activities that are focused within the public administration. A common example in this category was expressions of support of an AFC initiative by local public officials, such as a formal letter or resolution of support. Other examples were the public sector, where the public sector targeted changes within itself included the adoption of an AFC plan, such as a local comprehensive or strategic plan, and the embedding of AFC values into municipal committees. The public sector was also described as training staff about AFC values and population aging, as well as facilitating AFC events such as health fairs and community forums, and enhancing the built environment, such as improving bus shelters or crosswalks. The third category of findings was connecting with and influencing outside actors. This final theme refers to activities through which the public sector strategically connected with or influenced actors toward AFC goals external to a particular administrative unit, which could include influencing other units or levels of government or non-public sector actors entirely. A frequent example in this category was the public sector participating in or leading municipal committees, often as part of a public-private partnership. Alternatively, the public sector was also described as seeking to create change in private actors through policies and regulations, such as a private entity recognition program or zoning code changes. Common examples where one level of the public sector influenced another included higher levels, such as a provincial or state government, supporting more local level AFC implementation. We'll now move on to our discussion. So we situate our three findings into an overarching conceptual framework displayed here on the screen to characterize variation in manifestations of public sector involvement. The first dimension, going along the columns, reflects the range of ways the responsibility for AFC work can be held with respect to the public sector. This dimension demonstrates that such responsibility can be fully embedded within the public sector while being entirely outside the public sector. The second dimension, going along the rows, reflects the diversity in the internal-external orientation of the target for cross-sectoral change from the perspective of a given public administration, with the internally target efforts on one end, such as changes within the public sector itself, drawing on theme 2, and the external focused efforts on the other, such as the changes within other sectors or administration units, as reflected in theme 3. We offered this framework as a way to delineate the related yet distinct ways that the public sector is, and sometimes is not, involved in AFC efforts. For example, efforts that are led by and focused on the public sector, we'll look over here at Q2, such as an Aging in All Policies initiative, could be meaningfully distinguished in our framework from activities not primarily led nor focused on the public sector. Looking over here at Q4, such as a public sector entity participating in a multi-sectoral committee that's focused on greater collaboration on among nonprofit and civic groups. Relatedly, our framework can differentiate instances where one administrative unit is seeking to influence another unit or sector, looking over here at Q3, such as a state or provincial grant program intended to spur local AFC initiatives. We can compare this from activities influencing the public sector, but that are led by external actors here in Q1, such as a private sector advocacy group working to advance public sector resolutions and legislation. Our findings have implications for research, practice, and policy. In terms of research, these findings and related conceptual framework can be a guide for developing multidimensional, theoretically driven assessment of public sector AFC work, as well as organizing empirical assessments of public sector practice. For practice, this framework can offer a heuristic tool for practitioners to provide a framing of how the public sector is involved in their initiative and help to shape their long-term aspirations for what public sector work could look like long-term, as well as in offering a guidepost for tracking and monitoring progress towards said goals. And finally, with policy, our findings could help spur more intentional AFC programs, particularly those supported by higher level government levels, such as a state or provincial AFC grant-making program. We also want to highlight a few key limitations to our review. First, the nature of our review and guiding research question cannot address issues of causality, such as questions of effectiveness or the degree of success of a different or particular type of action. Further, in excluding articles outside the US and Canada, this review cannot reflect the rich insights of public sector involvement in AFC work in other regions. Relatedly, we did not analyze public sector actions as a function of location or geography, such as how activities might differ by country or by a rural-urban context. A final key limitation was that we did not include the term public health in our search terms, which we recognize represents a prominent public sector division with close connections to the AFC movements. As a final reflection, we hope our work and subsequent findings can serve to advance AFC knowledge production beyond the general notion that the public sector is important in AFC work to a conversation that is theoretically organizing the rich variation in how such involvement manifests in actual practice. We thank you for your time and attention to this presentation.